You know, I'm a journalist, I'm not an academic, so tell me when to stop. Journalists just take the time, so somebody will raise the hand when
it's my job.
Okay. When my time is over. Islam and democracy possibility, that's the headline. And you know, we are a flat journalist. I can say yes or no and go home. But you know, even after those 25 minutes, I don't think we will have the answer, because it's very complicated issues, very complicated values. We are inside of discussion between those two in the Middle East, in what happened today in the Arab Spring, what people call, or the journalistic language call Arab Spring. And maybe even in Europe, we can have indication what's going to be between the Islam and the democratic dream of the West. First, before, I just want to say that sometimes, and of course everything that I will tell here, and will say here, it will be from my journalistic point of view. I have a master's degree from the Hebrew University, but this is for my mother saloon that she will hang it. When I went to the journalistic world, my father told me, "Oh, you're not going to be a doctor." So it's a half proud, let's say. But today, the Jewish mother dream, it's not any longer a doctor. It's to be a journalist, a famous one. So I hope my mom is satisfied. If you check the Channel 10 rating, we're not so high, but it's okay. So this is my point of view from 20 years of covering the Arab world, especially the Palestinian territories. I lived in Hebron, I lived in Jenin, as an Arabic Jew, or sometimes as a Muslim Jew, or Muslim Arabic undercover. Like the series I did in Europe, I didn't introduce myself as Jewish, just in an Arabic. So my way to all those organizations, people, groups, very easy. It's not like you sit far from the situation and far from the events. And first rule in the Middle East, it's you have to understand that sometimes when you see things from the West and things are happening in the Middle East or in the East, they look different. Sometimes when you see the people demonstrating and you see it in Europe and in the United States, you said, hey, it's towards democracy, maybe it's democracy. But when you live in the Middle East, you see that the picture is more complicated. Maybe there is another colors inside. And we have to take in this element into consider, that things are changing between the continents. Things are changing between East and West. Sometimes we used to think in in way of rational, I call it Western rational. I sat with Arafat at 2002 in the Muqata. I asked him, do we share the same rational? He said no. I said to him, give me an example. He said, when somebody knock on the door, what you doing? I said, I'm going towards the door to open. He said, I'm jumping from the window. I said, okay, I understand your rationale. Next time I will wait you down the floor under the window. He said, next time it's something else. Next time, I don't know when it's going to be. So we have a different timeline and sometimes different rationale. When Israel attacked, and then the Palestinians attacked Israel in 2008, what we call the Oferet Yitzukah. I don't know how you call it in maybe you, Professor. Okay. The Israelis said, Khaled Mash'al, the head of the Hamas, he's sitting in Damascus. When he will hear that there is thousands of people who killed, and there is 22,000 of buildings that the Israeli aircraft demolished, he will say, stop. He didn't say it. When Assad began to shoot towards demonstrators in the street, people said after 20,000, like his father, he will stop. We're after 100,000. There's another, this is a other rationale. We can't understand it. We just can understand that we are not understanding in our rules, in our way of thinking. Take it into consider. Sometimes, I remember I sat with Arafat again. You know, he was jailed in Democrata, so he had a lot of time for journalists. I asked him, you know, Prime Minister Barak offered you 99% from the area. Why you said no? He said 99%, when you ask for 100, 99% it's close to zero, not to 100. I said, no, mathematically it's not so true. 99%, it's very close to 100. No, 99% close to zero, because it's not 100. Take it to consider. Another thing when we talk about democracy, it's about the term, democracy. Most of the world using this term, democracy. If you will ask Arab leaders, who used to be leaders before the Arab Spring, do you practice democracy in your country? They will say, yes, I have the democracy. We have an election, we have ballots, we have notes, we have everything. But when you take the Western package of democracy and you see if it exists in countries in the Middle East, you see that there is a difference. They use the term democracy, but it's not Western democracy. Gaddafi once used to say, we invented the democracy. Democracy, he said in Arabic, demo, it's people. Karasi in Arabic, it's chairs, which means it's the people sitting on the chairs. He said, it's ours invention. Democracy, he said. He was by the way, it was in the University in Columbia University in United States. He was the first Arab able to go there. But even if you will ask when Bashar Assad, President Bashar Assad of Syria, when his father died and he came to Syria, he explained in a very logic interview why he practiced democracy in his country, although his father told him, come, take the country. They say that this is democracy, but sometimes the meaning, it's something else. Once Arafat, and that's the last example of Arafat, I didn't imagine that I will use him. You know, journalists write something and then he's saying something else. He said, democracy, it's like sugar. When I asked him, why you're not taking Hamas into the game, to the democratic game? Only Abu Mazen told to Hamas, come, we will do election. Arafat told them, no, I can give you 10% from the PLO, but not an election. I asked him why. He said, it's like a sugar in a tea. When you put more, you can drink the tea. So slowly with this sugar. It's sugar, it's sweet, but you can't have it in one dose or in a big dose, or an overdose. Okay, Arab Spring. We're seeing such amazing things around us. And the first question is this the beginning of democracy all over the Middle East? Each one of us who will say yes, maybe he's right. And no, again, we're right. I will take the no and then the yes. Why it's not a democracy? Because the Middle East, in his structure, in his inner structure in the societies, divided between ethnic groups, sometimes between different ethnic groups, Shia and Sunni. And this is the main conflict and the main things, the main bleeding conflict today, Shia and Sunni. No, those who killed in Syria, those who killed in Iraq, those who killed in Yemen, they are not, Assad didn't kill them because they asked for democracy. He killed them because they came to revenge what his father did and what his, you know, the first father did to Prophet Muhammad. Shia and Sunni, it's in conflict from the 7th century that continue up to today. Up to today. So we can't ignore it. That's why sometimes minorities, most of them, sometimes majorities in the Middle East asking for democracy. If you will ask Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, what you want to be in Lebanon, he will say democracy. Why? Because democracy serves his dream. Sometimes they asking for democracy because it serves your dream. This is the tool to implement your dream. The Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt waited 80 years for the moment that it will be free election. And then when it was, the question, we wasn't so surprised. Even in the West, in Gaza, when you opened freely the ballot box and you do a free election, you see that the picture are changing. So most of the time, Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, even in Jordan, even in Syria, they will ask for democracy. Because they believe in the value, yes. But the tension between those values, Islam and democracy, it's unfair game. Islam is above democracy for those people. It's above, not because they hate democracy, not because democracy is what used to say, what we used to define in Arabic, bid'ah.
Unwelcome innovation.
Unwelcome innovation, yeah, sorry. You know, I'm thinking in Arabic, Hebrew, English, so I'm translating 3 times in my head. Because the first value, it's Islam. Afterwards, how I can implement it, democracy, okay, I will go for it. That's why I think that the democracy that we see in some places in the Middle East, maybe it's one-way democracy. We have to wait to see if they will give the key. When Abu Mazen did the election in 2006, when Hamas won in the West Bank and in Gaza, Abu Mazen refused to give the key of the state. And then Hamas took it by force. We have 2 states today. We have Hamastan and we have the Fatah land. And if United States and Israel are not keeping Abu Mazen to control there, it's going to be like in Gaza in the West Bank. Because it's no longer democracy game. When Hamas realized that Abu Mazen are not going to respect democracy, they said, okay, plan B. And it's the same with all the areas. Sometimes the democracy is only a tool toward the goal. You know that in Bahrain we have for 2 years Arab Spring, the beautiful Arab Spring. But Saudi Arabia and United States are keeping those demonstrations silent. Even Saudi Arabia, they thought to take over Bahrain. They got a bridge between them. Just to keep those 20% Sunni family to be on power and not to give democracy to 70% Shiis. Why the United States are not giving democracy for those people? They 70% from Bahrain. Because it will change all the map. Bahrain is the head of the Western, American, Saudi, Israeli map or existence in the Persian Gulf. Who is going to give it? Small, tiny island with the beautiful shells, by the way. I dived there. But nobody give it in the name of democracy. Democracy, it's not allowed in this place because, you know, there is something above. What's above? That the Sunnah should prevail and be on power. Same in Saudi Arabia. It's nice to let the women go to the parliament. It's nice to have democratic game, but with a limit. How this limit? It says the leader says, when from that limit it will rescue my regime, that's it. I would said no. Look what happened in Egypt in 2005, when President Mubarak opened a bit the election. 88 members from the Muslim Brotherhood entered to the parliament. 4 years after, only one of them entered. Weird. What about those 80%? How they just have one member and representative in the parliament? This is a game. This is a game. So take into consider that before you ask yourself if there is a democracy or not, put the right glasses on the Middle East map. Sunni and Shia. When I said first time in the television before 6 years to Moti Kirschenbaum, Sunni and Shia, he said, oh, you, the experts, telling us about tribes. Leave those stories. It's not tribes, my friend. This is not a tribes. When Saddam Hussein fought Iran for 8 years, by the way, this is the most horrible war ever since the Second World War in the Middle East, Iran, Iraq. 1.5 million people killed in this war. Why? Because of the Sunni and the Shia. Because Iraq and the Persians. What we see in Iraq today, by the way, this month we see a rising up of all those terror attacks. What we see in Syria, what we saw in Lebanon, it's only because of this division. Societies that are not dealing with this conflict, like Egypt and Tunisia, maybe they will have easier way towards democracy. Maybe. Egypt was from 5,000 years back a politically and geographically unit that you can say, okay, maybe. And Tunisia, maybe. But I can't say that that's it, this is democracy. We are now in the time of the reaction, after the action. The balancing gonna be in the future. Why not? And why yes? Sometimes the Muslim Brotherhood, the Wasatiyah, what we call, the mainstream of Islam, says that the elements of democracy are existent in the Islam. Ta'addudiyah, the multiple numbers of groups and people who want to share in the regimes, it exists. The Shura, when you're consulting with someone about the regime, or small group exists, but it's far away. It's far away from adapting the Western democracy. That's why we don't have any Western democracy yet. We have small steps towards. I think that the Wasatiyah, the Muslim Brotherhood, using as a tool. And the Salafis, they are more dugri, what you say in Arabic. They are more straight. They said, live it. Live the democracy. It's not our way of ruling. In a few minutes, how much time I have?
10 minutes.
Okay.
We'll give you a little bit more.
I will show you something that I heard in Europe. What people, young people, in democracy societies think about democracy. Which means if for example, if we're jumping now, small tiny jump to Europe, we see kids, children of immigrants, maybe children of immigrants, Muslim immigrants in Europe. They lived in democratic society for all their life. They just heard stories from their parents and grandmother and grandfather what happened and what kind of life they had in the Middle East. What they dream? Is the democracy are in their DNA, what we used to say? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Why? Because there is no observation of the democracy as a value inside Islam 100%. There is dialogue between them. That's why we have a lot of yes element, why democracy and Islam can go together. But there is a lot of no elements. When it's no, when it's come to contradiction, when it's come to the point that democracy said the opposite from the Islamic value or the Islamic rule. That's the point that we have to examine things in the Middle East. Once I gave an election in Mechon Weizmann Institute, and they told me to talk about the Arab Spring with, if it is an Arab Spring, and another professor came with the same headline, Arab Spring, and I asked, guys, did you bring here another expert? And you didn't told me, which means we didn't tell me. It's my respected journalist. As a journalist, they said, he's a climate professor, he's a doctor for climate, and he investigated that there is no spring in the Middle East. we're not a Europe. You know, in Europe, when you finish the winter, you have 3 months of spring and then summer. Here in Israel, you have 1 week, or in the Middle East, sometimes you don't have any spring. So guys, there is no spring. There is no spring. Spring you have in the spring. Not here. You can call it winter, you can call it whatever you want. I call it in Channel 10 most of the time to revenge has come. That's it. After 80 years, the Muslim Brotherhood waited for the point that they can take revenge from those nationalists who took the power from them, or whatever you will call it. That's it. It's not because of the Facebook and not because of the iPhone. The iPhone and the Facebook and the YouTube helping them to do it now. When you wait 40 years or 30 years in Syria, it's only 1 moment or 2 moments in the Middle East timeline. You know, shwaya shwaya in Arabic, sabr, patient. This is another value that you have to understand. Things are going slowly in the Middle East. There is a joke that when a guy takes revenge after 4 years, he said, I was hurry. Nothing is pushing. So this is the time of the revenge. If democracy will go out of it, maybe, but not now. Because now it's a picture of ethnic and ethnic division, clans, traditional divisions. I can tell you a lot about the difference between the Alawis and the Shi'is and the Sunnis, but it won't help us to understand why there is such a bloodshed there. Because we'll never understand it, but we have to see the numbers. The numbers, hundreds of thousands are dying in the last years in the Middle East. Gaddafi, 60,000. Assad, 100,000. Yemen, Iraq, thousands of people. Why? Why they've been killed? Because they asked for democracy? No. Because in the 7th century, their father, the patriarch father, choose to go always Sunnah, always Shia. This is the reason. And that's why the democracy came today and acting as a tool in this game. I will end my speech. I don't know what is it, but presentation. I want to show you 2 guys I met in Europe. 2 minutes clip, each one of them. One of them from Belgium, Abu Imran, maybe you know him. And one of them from Britain. By the way, you mentioned, the president mentioned what happened in United Kingdom when they slaughtered the soldier. These guys that you're gonna see, he was the leader of those two guys who did it. When they live in democratic society, they can say free what they think. Once a Palestinian friend told me a phrase in Arabic. It says, بدك الحق أو أخوه. You want the truth or his brother? Choose. There is a truth, there is his brother. You have to see as a journalist, where is the truth, where is the brother? And sometimes I'm telling you, when you have a free societies, it's most likely to hear the truth there. Not in dictatorial state like Syria. So those guys sitting in Europe, the first, it's Abu Imran. It's an organization called Sharia for Belgium. This is part of my series Ala Islam that I did in Europe. And I'm discussing here, what is more important for you? The state rules or the Quranic rules? Those guys are Salafis. Now he's arrested because he sent guys to Syria. But I entered his organization as a Muslim. I stayed with them weeks. Only 2 minutes, you can hear what he's thinking and what his guys are thinking. Here it's within English subtitles.
The opposite of Sharia and Islam. We believe that Allah is the legislator. Allah makes the laws. He is the one who tells us what's allowed and what's forbidden.
מוכר בבלגיה כמי שמסית ובז לכל סמלי המדינה, ועיקר כמי שמטיף לג'יהאד ברחבי בלגיה. הוא משוכנע כי רק מאבק אלים ישנה לבסוף את פניה של בלגיה.
This is the atomium.
הפרובוקציה האחרונה שלו הכעיסה רבים בבלגיה, והיא התרחשה מתחת לאטומיום, מגדל האייפל של בריסל, כך הוא מכונה. האטומיום הוא מונומנט ענק, ובו 9 כדורי פלדה מחוברים, ומסמלים את מחוזותיה של בלגיה.
En dan beloven wij dat wij België zullen zuiveren. Zowel van het afgoderijsysteem als van de afgoden zelf. En dan zullen wij deze zaken neerhalen. Zullen wij deze zaken afbreken.
مين حضر من هون؟ انت وين؟
أنا هنا. أبو عتيق.
انت وين؟ مع الشفية؟
أنا متوترة.
ايوه حلو بين شيخ.
We were in Brussels.
Yeah.
And we were on the way home. But we saw some cars going into the palace of the king. So Abu Imran told us to make a video in front of the palace to provocate. The reason why we pray on street because Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is one of our followers.
Rashidun.
Yes. He always prays in front of his door. He never prays in his house. Why? So he provocated the Quraysh, so he can make them mad. And that's why we pray on street. It's like kind of da'wah. The kuffar.
Okay. I won't jump because not to take more time.
When they walk by,
Look what the dreams of those kids.
Allah is present. And in
Sorry. This is the guy, the Britain guy. Yeah, in a moment.
Clearly, the evidence is very clear that this works into
In a
the
moment.
hands of extremists.
بالعالم العربي او بالعالم المسلم بشكل عام اليوم اكثر بلد قريب من رايكم.
What is the moral?
Somalia ou Yémen. Yémen, bien, ces régions, Hadramaut, là-bas c'est maintenant en 100% contrôle des musulmans. Les gens sont là-bas en sécurité.
جزء من باكستان كمان في جنوب باكستان.
Nord Waziristan, ouais.
يعني ما هو شو رايكم مثلا بالشيخ اسامه؟
الشيخ أسامة رحمه الله أحسن شخص في هذا الزمن رحمه الله يعني أنا que moi je parle à propos de Cheikh Osama j'ai pas le droit qui je suis moi Je suis la saleté en tous les ongles. J'ai pas le droit de parler le Cheikh Osama.
ما اعتقلوه لا ما اعتقلوه وقتلوه قبل سنة. شو شعرت؟ شو لما سمعت الخبر؟
الحزن. On était triste bien sûr.
فرح ليش؟
استشهاد.
استشهاد.
نعم.
This is a call to all of the Muslims. Islam never died. The Sharia never died. The Jihad never died. Sheikh Osama bin Laden passed away. Allah Sabin Shaheed.
חברי השריעה for Belgium לא לבד. ישנם ארגונים נוספים פעילים בבירות אירופה השונות. והמטה הכללי יושב בלונדון, ובראשו עומד השייח אנג'ם חודרי.
We will implement the Quran, inshallah, in Britain and in Europe. And one day, inshallah, a group will rise and they will implement the Sharia and fly the flag of La ilaha illallah from the White House. Takbir!
When they say Sharia, they're not meaning democracy. When they say Sharia, they see it as a Bin Laden style. This is the dream of part of the kids in Europe, my friends. They live in democracy. But when the democracy are not serving their dreams, Islam come above. So, each one of us will decide if it's possible or not. But there is a time, maybe it will be possible that Islam will prevail with democracy in a Western package 100%. Maybe there are going to be changes. Maybe it's not going to be at all. But this is the argument of yes or no from a journalistic point of view. From my experience, you will decide by yourself what you are picking from this. But this is my things. Thank you very much.